First three lessons of history. What are they? Advent of Europeans to India, the extension of the British rule and the impact of British rule in India. In this session, we are going to discuss about these three lessons. First lesson, Advent of Europeans to India. In this lesson, you have already learnt many concepts like the trade relationship between India and Europe, the fall of Constantinople, a new sea route to India, European trade companies, the competition between English and French, Battle of Plassey, Battle of Buxar and dual government concept. Let us discuss these concepts one by one. First important concept of this lesson is the trade relationship between India and Europe. You have already learnt that there was a trade relationship between India and Europe since ancient times, and this type of trade was continued even during the Middle Ages. Indian spices like pepper, cardamom, ginger and many other spices had a great demand in Europe. During this time, Arab merchants carried the Asian merchandise into Constantinople of Eastern Roman Empire. Italian merchants would buy those goods and sold them in European countries. In this way, the trade relationship between India and Europe was seen. Here, Constantinople was the main center of international trade. That's why Constantinople was called gateway of European trade here. Arab merchants had gained monopoly over the trade in Asian countries, whereas the Italian traders had gained monopoly over trade in Europe. Arab merchants purchased the goods from Asian countries and they sold them in a place called Constantinople. Constantinople is also known as Istanbul. From Constantinople, it was Italian traders, they purchased and they sold the goods in European countries. Constantinople was known as gateway of European trade. All the trade was carried through this Constantinople. But here in the year 1453, one of the most important historical event took place. What is that historical event? The name of the historical event was the fall of Constantinople. In the year 1453, Ottoman Turks captured Constantinople. When they captured Constantinople, all the trade routes that connecting the city of Constantinople came under the control of the Turks. Because Turks captured it, they levied heavy taxes on the goods which were sold there. Hence, the trade was not profitable for other European countries. At the same time, Spain and Portugal were attempting to break the monopoly of Italian traders. Italian traders had monopoly over trade in Constantinople and also in Europe. That's why Spain and Portugal were attempting to break the monopoly of Italian traders. So they encouraged courageous sailors to discover sea route to India. This was one of the reasons for the discovery of sea route to India. Another important reason was the inventions. During those period, we can see different kinds of invention in the field of scientific technology. What are those inventions? First one, astrolabes, gunpowder, compass. You have already learnt that compass helps in identifying the directions. Astrolabe is an instrument to measure the altitude of sun, stars or other heavenly bodies. And gunpowder helped in pistol or guns or other explosive weapons. These three inventions helped the European sailors to discover sea route to India. With the help of this kind of encouragement from the rulers of Portugal and Spain, and with the help of scientific technology, many sailors tried to discover sea route to India, but they failed. Finally, it was Vasco da Gama who was successful in discovering sea route to India. he came to India in the year 1498. In this way, Portuguese were the first to re-establish their trade with India. We can see the path which was followed by Vasco da Gama. He started his journey from a place called Lisbon. Where is Lisbon? Lisbon is located in Portugal. Vasco da Gama started his journey from Portugal and finally he reached a place called Kapad, which is located on the western coast of India. In this way, Vasco da Gama was the first person to discover sea route to India. In this way, Portuguese were the first to come to India. After Portuguese, it was Dutch. After Dutch, English, and at the end, French came to India. Totally, we can see 4 number of European trade companies who came to India, started their trade. And first important one, that is Portuguese. Portuguese, they were the first to arrive at India and also they were the last to leave India. They came in the year 1498, they left India in the year 1961. After Vasco da Gama, it was Francisco de Almeida who came as a viceroy. He was the first Portuguese viceroy in India. When he came to India, he introduced a policy known as Blue Water Policy. What do you mean by Blue Water Policy? Blue Water Policy is nothing but a policy which was introduced by Francisco de Almeida in order to establish the supremacy over the sea instead of the supremacy over land. His main intention was to establish supremacy over the sea. After Francisco de Almeida, it was Alphonse de Albuquerque who came as a second Portuguese viceroy. He was considered as real founder of Portuguese rule in India. And when he came to India, he fought a war against the Sultan of Bijapur in the year 1510 and captured Goa. And here, the power of Portuguese declined with the arrival of English and French in India. In the beginning, they were very powerful, but with the arrival of French, but with the arrival of English, they were not able to face the competition. That's why they left India. In this map, you can see the capital of Portuguese, that is Goa. And again, after Portuguese, we can see Dutch. Dutch, they are from Holland or Netherlands. Their company is known as United East India Company. It was started in the year 1602. What was the aim of Dutch East India Company or United East India Company? Its main aim was to do business with eastern countries. We can see Netherlands, map of Netherlands. They established their warehouses in Surat, Broch, Cambay, Cochin, Nagapattanam, Masulipatanam, Chinsor and other places in India. Here you should remember, Portuguese were not able to face the competition from the British and the Dutch. Here the Dutch were not able to face the competition from French and the British. That's why they left India and they concentrated on rich spice islands. After Dutch, it was English. You can see the picture here. Queen Elizabeth, she was responsible for the founding of British East India Company. In the year 1600, December 31st, she issued a royal charter to East India Company to trade with eastern countries for 15 years. With the help of Queen, many British traders came to India. One of them was Sir Thomas Roe. Who was Sir Thomas Roe? He was an ambassador from the court of James I. He came to India. During that time, Jahangir was the Mughal ruler. Sir Thomas Roe visited the court of Jahangir. He took the permission from Jahangir to establish factories. Where did they establish their factories? They established their factories in Agra, Ahmedabad and Broch. Apart from this, by 17th century, the English had established Bombay, Madras and Calcutta as the centers of their presidencies. In this map you are seeing here Mumbai, Madras and this one, that is Calcutta. These three were the important presidencies of the British. Finally, French came to India. British East India Company was a private company, whereas the French East India Company was a government company. It was started in the year 1664 and they started their first factory in a place called Surat in the year 1668. Later, they established their many other factories, Machilipattanam, Chandranagore, Mahe, Karaikal, Kasim Bazar, Balasur. In these places, they established their factories. Along with this, they made Pondicherry as their capital. Pondicherry was also known as Puducherry. There was a big history behind this Puducherry or Pondicherry. As you know, the French, they took Valikondapuram from a local Muslim official and developed that Valikondapuram. Finally, they made it as a major trading center of the French, and that Valikondapuram came to be known as Pondicherry or Puducherry. It was their capital till they leave India. Here, Dupleix, who arrived in Pondicherry as the Governor General of French, had the high ambition of establishing French as the major power in South India. He wanted to establish the power of the French in South India. His ambition made competition between the French and the British. Finally, it led to a war which is known as Carnatic Wars. Here we can see three Carnatic Wars. These Carnatic Wars were fought between the French and the British. First Carnatic War between 1746 to 48, second Carnatic War which was fought between 1749 to 1754, and the last and third Carnatic War which was fought between 1756 to 1763. From the exam point of view, these three Carnatic Wars are very important. You have to concentrate on these wars. Now let us discuss these wars one by one. First Carnatic War. What were the reasons for this first Carnatic War? Here on the request of Dupleix Labourdonnais. He was a French military leader. He came from Mauritius, attacked Madras and captured it. Dupleix requested him to attack on it and he was successful. But when he attacked on Madras, British requested Anwaruddin. Who was Anwaruddin here? He was the Nawab of Carnatic. Anwaruddin tried to defeat the French, but he failed, and he failed to defeat the French at Madras. Finally, Labourdonnais, he took money from the British, gave Madras back and went back to Mauritius. When he went back to Mauritius, this enraged whom? Dupleix got angry. He tried to attack on Madras, but he failed in his attempt. Finally, the first Carnatic War came to an end by the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle. Here, one thing you should remember, the French and the British were not only the enemies in India, but also they were enemies in Europe. In Europe, they signed a treaty which was called Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle. Second important war which was fought between the French and the British was the Second Carnatic War. What were the reasons for the Second Carnatic War? Here we should remember Chanda Sahib. Chanda Sahib, with the help of the French, he was made as the Nawab of Carnatic with the help of French. When he was made as Nawab, Robert Clive, who was a governor of East India Company, attacked on Arcot, the capital of Carnatic, and he defeated Chanda Sahib. He not only defeated him but also killed him in the war. After killing him, British or Robert Clive, they made Muhammad Ali, who was the son of Anwaruddin, as the Nawab of Carnatic. And finally, the Second Carnatic War came to an end by the Treaty of Pondicherry. With this Second Carnatic War, British became very powerful, whereas the French suffered a political setback. They suffered a lot. Last important war, that is Third Carnatic War, which was fought between 1756 to 1763. Third Carnatic War is considered as an important war in the history of India because this war led to the decline of the French rule in India. Here we should remember three important personalities: Count de Lally and also the Sir Eyre Coote. Third one, that is Bussy. Let us discuss the reasons for Third Carnatic War. Count de Lally of French, he attempted to capture Vandivash in the year 1760. When he tried to capture, it was Sir Eyre Coote who led the English army, defeated the French and imprisoned Bussy. Bussy helped Count de Lally. Count de Lally and Bussy, they attempted to capture Vandivash. Finally, Count de Lally escaped from the battlefield and he tried to hide in Pondicherry. Finally, Sir Eyre Coote attacked Pondicherry and Count de Lally had to surrender unconditionally in the year 1761. Now let us move to the important effects of Third Carnatic War. French had to lose all their bases in India due to Carnatic Wars. In spite of this, the Third Carnatic War came to an end by the Treaty of Paris. As per this treaty, which was signed in the year 1763, Pondicherry was returned to French. With these developments, French lost their importance in India and British became very powerful in India. Another important concept of first lesson is Battle of Plassey. When it was fought, the Battle of Plassey was fought in the year 1757. Between whom it was fought? It was fought between Siraj-ud-Dowlah and the British. Who was Siraj-ud-Dowlah? Siraj-ud-Dowlah was the grandson of Alivardi Khan. Who was Alivardi Khan? Alivardi Khan was the Nawab of Bengal. Alivardi Khan died in the year 1756. After his death, his grandson Siraj-ud-Dowlah came to the throne, and when he came to the throne, there was a battle between him and the British. Now let us see what were the reasons for the Battle of Plassey. Here we can see there are three important reasons for the Battle of Plassey: misuse of dastaks, mending of the fort without permission, black room tragedy. Now we shall discuss these three reasons one by one. First important reason, misuse of dastaks. See here, Siraj-ud-Dowlah, he was the Nawab of Bengal, and during the period of Siraj-ud-Dowlah, dastaks were misused by the British. Dastak here, dastak means free trade passes which were given to the British, but they misused it. When they misused it, the Nawab of Bengal, that is Siraj-ud-Dowlah, faced a huge loss. When he faced a huge loss, he opposed the misuse of dastaks. Second important one, mending of the fort without permission. British tried to mend the fort without the permission of Nawab here. Here which port? The port was located in Calcutta. It was known as Fort William because they repaired the fort. Here the British repaired the fort of Calcutta and they kept cannons in them. This further angered Siraj-ud-Dowlah and he ordered the removal of cannons from the court. The British refused to do this, angering the Nawab further. In this way, there was an enmity between the British and Siraj-ud-Dowlah. Last important reason, that is black room tragedy. He ordered the British to remove the cannon from the fort. When they refused it, he got angry. That's why he attacked on the Fort William, captured nearly 146 Englishmen in a small room in the fort, whereas 123 Englishmen died. And this incident was known as Black Room Tragedy. In this way, all these three reasons, especially due to the Black Room Tragedy, it was Robert Clive who got angry and attacked on Siraj-ud-Dowlah. Here we can see this is Robert Clive and this is Siraj-ud-Dowlah. In this battle, Siraj-ud-Dowlah was defeated and he was killed. Now let us discuss what were the effects of Battle of Plassey? In exam you may expect this question. Explain the effects of Battle of Plassey. Then you have to write these points. First one, this war brought out the immorality, lack of unity among the Indians and the greed of Indian businessmen. Many Indians, they did not support Siraj-ud-Dowla, they supported the British. That's why it showed lack of unity among the Indians. Second important effect, that was Mir Jafar became the Nawab of Bengal. Mir Jafar helped the British during the Battle of Plassey. That's why he was made as the Nawab of Bengal. And also the company got exclusive rights to do business in Bengal. Mir Jafar had to pay rupees 17 crores and 70 lakhs to the British as a relief to Siraj-ud-Dowla's attack on the Fort William. Now let us move to another important battle which was fought between the British and Indian rulers, was the Battle of Buxar. Here, after the Battle of Plassey, Mir Jafar became the Nawab of Bengal and he became the puppet in the hands of British. He fulfilled all the demands of the British. See here, Mir Jafar. But slowly he did not want to be loyal to the British. He wanted to expand his powers. When he wanted to expand his powers, British dethroned Mir Jafar and made Mir Qasim as the Nawab of Bengal. In this way, Mir Qasim became the Nawab of Bengal. Who was Mir Qasim? Mir Qasim was the nephew of Mir Jafar. In the beginning, Mir Qasim remained loyal to the company. He also fulfilled all the demands of the British. He paid nearly 2 lakh pounds to the company and gave away few places to them. But shortly, he declared himself as an independent king, and also he stopped the misuse of dastaks. Dastaks were misused those periods. That's why Nawab faced huge loss. Mir Qasim declared that business is duty free in Bengal. He made all trade, all business as free. When he made the trade or the business as free, all the Indians competed against the British. So British trade suffered a lot. That's why again they removed Mir Qasim from the throne. Once again they made Mir Jafar as the Nawab of Bengal. When Mir Qasim was dethroned from the post of Nawab, he made an agreement with Mughal ruler Shah Alam II and Nawab of Oudh, who was known as Shuja-ud-Dowla. Here, 3 rulers, they attacked on the British. In this way, Battle of Buxar started in the year 1764. Battle of Buxar was fought between the British and Mir Qasim, Shuja-ud-Dowla, Shah Alam II. Here, in this battle, combined forces of these 3 were defeated by a British officer known as Hector Munro. He was popularly known as the hero of Buxar because he defeated them in the 1764. Mir Qasim ran away from the battlefield. Then who were captured here? Shuja-ud-Dowla, Shah Alam II. They surrendered to the British. Now let us move to the impacts or the outcomes of the Battle of Buxar. Shah Alam II accorded the Diwani rights over Bengal to the British. What do you mean by Diwani right? The right to collect the taxes is known as Diwani right. Shah Alam II gave away all the rights over Bengal to the British for an annual fee of rupees 26 lakhs. Third important outcome was the Nawab of Oudh had to give away a fine of rupees 50 lakh for waging a war against the company. With the death of Mir Jafar, the company paid pension to his son and took over the entire administration of Bengal. In this way, after defeating the French, after defeating Siraj-ud-Dowla, Britishers were able to establish their control over Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. Robert Clive came to India in the 1765 as a governor. When he came to India, he introduced a concept that is known as dual government concept. What do you mean by dual government concept? The name itself says it is a kind of two government. One the British, another one the Nawab. The British had the right to collect land taxes, whereas the Nawab had the power over administrative issues like justice and others. In first lesson, we must give importance to all these points. Dear students, now let us move to lesson number 2, that is the extension of the British rule. In this lesson, you have already learnt 4 important concepts: Anglo-Maratha Wars, the subsidiary alliance system, Anglo-Sikh Wars and the doctrine of lapse. Let us discuss these 4 concepts one by one. First important one, Anglo-Maratha War. How many Anglo-Maratha wars were fought? There were 3 Anglo-Maratha wars. First Anglo-Maratha War, which was fought between 1775 to 1782. Second Anglo-Maratha War, fought between 1803 to 1805. Third Anglo-Maratha War, which was fought between 1817 to 1818. Now we shall move to first Anglo-Maratha War. What were the reasons for the first Anglo-Maratha War? The death of Maratha strong man Madhav Rao. He was a Peshwa and he was a strong man. After his death, Marathas faced a severe setback. After his death, his brother Narayan Rao came to power, but he was murdered by his uncle Raghoba or Raghunath Rao. In this picture, you can see Raghunath Rao. Raghunath Rao murdered Narayan Rao. When Raghunath Rao murdered Narayan Rao, Nana Fadnavis got angry and he made Madhav Rao II. Who was Madhav Rao II? Madhav Rao II was the son of Narayan Rao. When Madhav Rao II was made as the Peshwa, who got angry now? Raghunath Rao or Raghoba got angry. That's why when Maratha Federation brought Madhav Rao II as the Peshwa, who got upset? Raghunath Rao got upset. When he got upset, he took the support of the British. British got a chance to interfere in the internal matters of the Marathas, so they attacked on the Marathas. Finally, the first Anglo-Maratha War came to an end in the year 1782 with the treaty called Salbai Agreement. As per this Salbai Agreement, Madhav Rao II was made as the Peshwa. Now we shall move to second Anglo-Maratha War. The difference among the Maratha chieftains was the main reason for the war. Among the Marathas, we can see different kinds of chieftains, Holkar or the Scindia. An enmity broke out between Yashwant Rao of Holkar family and Daulat Rao of Scindia family along with Peshwa. You should remember in the year 1802, the army of Holkar defeated the army of Scindia and the Peshwa. The Peshwa appealed for help from the British. Lord Wellesley finally got an opportunity to interfere in the affairs of the Marathas. Peshwa entered the subsidiary alliance system by accepting the Treaty of Bessin. As per the Treaty of Bessin, he accepted the subsidiary alliance system. When he accepted the subsidiary alliance system, Maratha families, Maratha chieftains like Holkar, Gwalior, Bhonsle, others, they formed an alliance and opposed this treaty. Finally, at the end, this became a reason for third Anglo-Maratha War. So these were all the important reasons for the second Anglo-Maratha War. Here you have to remember 2 important treaties. First Anglo-Maratha War came to an end by the Treaty of Salbai or Salbai Agreement. Second Anglo-Maratha War came to an end by the Treaty of Bessin. Peshwa accepted the subsidiary alliance system as per the terms of the Treaty of Bessin. Okay, in this way, Lord Wellesley defeated the armies of various Maratha families from 1803 to 1805. Now, let us move to Third Anglo-Maratha War, which was fought between 1817 to 1818. The Maratha families, they were defeated during the Second Anglo-Maratha War. That's why they wanted to protect their independence and also honor. They wanted to defeat the British. Even the Peshwa Bajirao II also wanted to defeat the British here. Even the Peshwa attempted to free himself from the clutches of the company. He attacked the British residency in Pune and burnt it down. Finally, Peshwa Bajirao II fought against the British at Koregaon and Asti and later surrendered to the British. In this way, the attempt of Peshwa Bajirao II was ended by the British, and British abolished the Peshwa post and granted a pension to Bajirao II. He was very powerful during the Second Anglo-Maratha War, but after Third Anglo-Maratha War, Bajirao II was pensioned and also British abolished the post of Peshwa. And here, after Third Anglo-Maratha War, they made Pratap Simha. Who was he? He was the descendant of Shivaji, and Pratap Simha was made as the ruler of Satara, and Britishers named him as the traditional leader of Marathas, suppressed the Maratha resistance. In this way, with the help of Third Anglo-Maratha War, the power of the Marathas came to an end. Now, let us move to another important concept of this lesson, that is subsidiary alliance system. When we heard about subsidiary alliance system, we remember Lord Wellesley. Lord Dalhousie introduced the doctrine of lapse, whereas Lord Wellesley introduced subsidiary alliance system. When did he introduce it? He introduced it in the year 1798. Why did he introduce subsidiary alliance system? He wanted to control the Indian states. That's why he introduced it. What do you mean by subsidiary alliance? Subsidiary alliance is nothing but a military agreement between the East India Company and the Indian state. Here, this subsidiary alliance had certain conditions. What were they? First one, if any native rulers of India accepted this subsidiary alliance system, they had to keep the British army in their kingdom, and also they had to look after all the expenses of the army and the wages of soldiers, and also had to give certain revenue lands as well. And third important condition was the king has to have a British resident in his court. The main duty of resident was to look after the internal affairs of that state. The king could not appoint any other European without the permission of the English. In order to enter any agreement or any pact or treaties or agreement with any Indian government, the permission of Governor General was mandatory. It was very essential. Finally, if the rulers of India, if they accept these conditions, finally in return, the company would offer protection to the state from internal or external attacks. So, these were all the conditions of subsidiary alliance system. Hyderabad state was the first state to enter this agreement. After Hyderabad, many other states also agreed this. Mysore, Oudh, Tanjavur, Maratha, Pune, Berar, Gwalior and other states entered this agreement. Another concept of this lesson is Anglo-Sikh wars. Ranjit Singh was a powerful king of the Sikhs. After the death of Ranjit Singh, a political anarchy broke out in Punjab, especially in the year 1839. The British attempted to capture Punjab after violating continuous friendship pact. The continuous friendship pact was signed between the British and Ranjit Singh. After the death of Ranjit Singh, British attacked and they tried to capture it. In the year 1845, a war broke out between the British and Punjab. This war was known as Anglo-Sikh War. Sensing the danger from an outside force, all Hindus, Sikhs and the Muslims, they united together and tried to defeat the British. But they faced defeat due to few traitor leaders. Here we can mention a traitor leader like Man Singh. Man Singh cheated them. Finally, they had to face the defeat and they signed a humiliating Lahore Agreement in the year 1846. Lahore Agreement was signed between the British and the Sikh. With this, British residents became the de facto ruler of Punjab. As per the Treaty of Lahore Agreement, Punjab came under the control of British and they appointed a resident to look after it. After few days, British tried to rule Punjab directly, but it was opposed by some of the Sikh rulers. Who were they? Chattari Singh Attariwala, he revolted against British in Lahore, and Moolaraj revolted against the British in Multan, but finally Lord Dalhousie successful in defeating all these revolts and he merged the state of Punjab with the British Empire. The last concept of this lesson is doctrine of lapse. As you know, dear children, the doctrine of lapse was introduced by Lord Dalhousie. What is this doctrine of lapse? According to this policy, if any Indian ruler dies without children, their adopted children had no regal right over the throne. As per this policy, many states came under the control of the British. Here we can see Satara, Nagpur, Sambalpur, Udaipur, Jhansi. All these states came under the control of the British. Among them, Satara was the first state came under the control of the British. With the help of the doctrine of lapse, British were able to capture many Indian states. In second lesson, you have to give importance to these 4 points. Let us move to lesson number 3, that is the impact of British rule in India. We should give importance to these concepts. Now we shall move to land tax policies. There were 3 important land tax policies introduced by the British. First one, the permanent zamindar system, Mahalwar system and Rayatwari system. Let us discuss permanent zamindari system. It was introduced by Lord Cornwallis. He introduced permanent zamindari system in Bengal and Bihar regions. Under this system, zamindars became the owner of the land. Here Lord Cornwallis, and here he introduced it in Bengal and Bihar regions. The zamindars, they were expected to pay the agreed land taxes to the company on a set date every year. Zamindars were free to collect any amount of land taxes from the farmers, could retain the excess money collected. If the zamindars, if they were unable to collect land taxes due to floods or famine and pay the company, the ownership of the land was taken away by the company. Under the permanent zamindar system, both zamindars and the company were benefited, but the farmers were suffered a lot. That's why Charles Metcalfe said, Indian farmers born in debt, live in debt, died in debt. Now let us move to second important land reform, that is Mahalwar system. What do you mean by Mahal? Mahal means taluk. Where it was introduced? It was introduced in Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Punjab and Delhi. Who implemented this system? Mahalwar system was implemented by R. M. Bird and James Thomson. Mahalwar system was introduced in these places. Now we shall move to the features of Mahalwari system. The big and small zamindars were part of this system. Since the company officials fixed more land tax than the expected production from the fields, many zamindars had to lose their ownership of the lands. The farmers and agricultural laborers who were dependent on these zamindars also suffered due to this system. That's why Mahalwari system was also not profitable, it was also not useful for the farmers. Third important land reforms, that is Rayatwari system. Rayatwari system was first implemented in Baramahal region by Alexander Reed in the year 1792. Later it was implemented in Madras and Mysore region by Thomas Munro. Here you should remember two important personalities, Alexander Reed and Thomas Munro. In this map you can see Baramahal region and also Madras. In Mysore region, this Rayatwari system was introduced. Let us discuss what are the features of this system. Most of these regions had become a part of British Empire by that time. Under this system, both the farmers and the company were directly linked. Farmers were made as the owner of the land. The owner had to pay 50% of produce as land tax to the company government as per this Rayatwari system. The land tax had 30 years of tenure. The tax could be reviewed after this tenure. But here you should remember, though the small farmers were given land ownership, they were subjected to more suffering due to heavy land taxes. The officials took strict actions to collect land taxes. That's why farmers suffered a lot even due to this Rayatwari system. Another important concept of this lesson, that is the impact. British introduced three kind of land reforms in India. What happened after the introduction of those reforms? First one, a new class of zamindars created. They exploited the farmers. Farmers who were subjected to the exploitation of the zamindars became landless slowly. They lost their lands. Land became commodity here. Loans could be raised by mortgaging the lands. Many zamindars also had to mortgage their lands in order to pay the land taxes. The agriculture sector became commercialized and had to grow raw materials needed by industries back in England. The money lenders became very strong. Now let us move to another important concept of this lesson, that is modern education system. When we come to modern education system, you can easily remember this concept with the help of these names: Warren Hastings, William Bentinck, Lord Dalhousie, Jonathan Duncan, Macaulay, Thomas Babington Macaulay, T.B. Macaulay, Calcutta, Bombay and Madras, Charles Grant, Charles Wood. You must remember these points. Now let us discuss one by one. First one, Warren Hastings. Warren Hastings facilitated the expansion of the modern education in India. In the year 1781, he started Calcutta Madrasa. Second important personality, Jonathan Duncan. What did he do? He started Sanskrit College in Banaras in the year 1792. And it was Charles Grant. For the first time, he gave importance to the universalization of British education in India. The expansion of the British education in India received a special support after the appointment of Lord William Bentinck in the year 1828 as the Governor General of India. He appointed Macaulay as the member of Governor General's Executive Council. Here, these two personalities, they were responsible for the introduction of English education or modern education in India. They introduced English education in the year 1835, Lord William Bentinck and Macaulay. Macaulay, he was also appointed as the chairman of the Committee on Education. The report on education submitted by Macaulay in the year 1835 became the base of the modern education in India. The modern education was introduced on the basis of the report given by Macaulay, and also Governor General Lord Dalhousie also contributed for the growth of modern education. How? He established universities in Calcutta, Bombay and Madras as per the suggestions of Charles Wood Commission. Now we shall move to what were the impact of British education in India. Indians could develop modernity, secularism, democratic attitudes and rationality along with nationalistic ideas. They got new ideas. Importance was given to local literature and languages. Many Indians, they started writing in local languages and also they gave importance to local literature. Many periodicals were started here. With the help of these periodicals, Indians started criticizing the administration of the British, and new social and religious reformation movements were started. Rajaram Mohan Rai, Dayananda Saraswati and Atmaram Panduranga, others, they wanted to reform the society, they wanted to reform the Indian religion. And also thinkers like J.S. Mill, Rousseau, Montesquieu brought fresh thinking in the mind of educated youth of India. The freedom struggle that were taking place across the globe influenced the Indians also. And the last impact, that was Indians could understand and appreciate their rich tradition here. In today's session, we have discussed first three important chapters of history. These are all important questions from the exam point of view. What were the causes and effects of the Battle of Plassey? What were the outcome of the Battle of Buxar? What were the reasons for the Battle of Plassey? How did the doctrine of lapse support the expansion of British Empire in India? Explain the conditions of subsidiary alliance. In permanent zamindar system, the Indian farmers were born in debt, lived in debt and died in debt. How? What were the main aspects of Rayatwari system? What were the effects of British land taxes? Make a list of the effects of British education in India. What were the measures undertaken at the time of British in education system? So you have to give importance to all these questions.